Johannesburg authorities say the death toll in the five-storey building could still rise as recovery operations continue this morning. Over 40 others are being treated at various health facilities. The fire has now been extinguished and an investigation into the cause of the blaze is underway. This disaster comes as the city has barely recovered from last month's gas explosion in the CBD that claimed one life, leaving 48 other people injured. All right, let's take you live now to Marshalltown and to the scene of the devastation unfolding there. Ayanda, it's difficult to comprehend. At 5 o'clock this morning, we told our viewers about 10 people that have died. 6 o'clock, you came in with the developing news that that number had doubled. At 7 o'clock this morning, we're now at 30 lives lost.
And I'm afraid, Michelle, the number we're told may still rise even further. It's an absolutely heartbreaking scene here in Marshalltown at the corner of Albert and Dusmer Street, where we're told this devastating fire took hold in the early hours of this morning. It's a five-storey building. We now know an abandoned building, which shouldn't have been occupied to begin with. I want to step out a shot as a start, get you a sense of how the building is looking as the sun begins to rise here in central Johannesburg. And you can see there, the smoke still billowing through, because we understand, of course, that even though the fire has now been put out, that only just happened a few hours ago. And in fact, this has now turned from what was initially a search and rescue mission to a search and recovery mission. Just moments ago, really sobering scenes. We saw even more bodies being brought out. We've taken the decision as Newzroom Afrika not to necessarily broadcast those really grim visuals, because some of those bodies are actually lying on the floor, on the street, as we speak. In fact, as I speak to you now, I see more of that operation taking place. There's going to be a whole lot of questions, of course, about how we got here. For now, the cause of the fire itself is not yet known. Those who are displaced by the blaze have been moved even further away from the building itself. So if you can imagine a larger circumference almost being built with each block around the building, and that's because there are very serious safety concerns about the integrity of the structure itself, because as I mentioned, as an abandoned building, not a lot of maintenance, I imagine, might have taken place. So the structural integrity may have been compromised even before the fire itself took hold. Many of those who are here telling us that they, in fact, were told that they could rent out the space. In fact, we're able to speak to some of them, and hopefully we'll bring you some of those sentiments throughout the course of our broadcast. But for now, let's bring in one of the councillors of this particular area. His name is Mongameli Nyameni, who's the Joburg Ward Councillor for Ward 124 in Region F. Councillor, thanks very much indeed for your time. Really devastating what's taking place here.
Seriously, so it's a very devastating situation that is here. About 30 people have lost their lives currently, and they are still busy doing the research. It's possible there can be more than 30 people have lost their lives. There's also a child that is about 1 year old that passed also. There is one of the victims here. It's very devastating because this building was once a shelter for the abused women and children. But what happened apparently, there were thugs and criminals who hijacked the building. Then we're collecting rent here. We once came together with the official of JPC. It was Sipho Manganyi. Those people that were saying they were no longer women now. We are men collecting rent, staying here. Then illegally so. Those were the thugs. I suspect that is a fire that is caused by this, maybe the illegal connection. Hence the building was declared the unsafe building. Then the other part of the building, it was a clinic. And also the clinic was then closed because the structure was not safe. Then it was closed at all. But also that part of the clinic is also hijacked also.
Yeah. Councillor, there's no way that authorities didn't know that this building was hijacked, as you mentioned. Why has it taken a tragedy like this for there to be any kind of evacuation of the people who are staying there?
No, it's known, but you must then understand that everything goes to a process. Nobody anticipated that there will be such a tragic incident. But then the city is aware that there's this building that is being hijacked because it is being reported. I was also raised an alarm at the city, the council, to say that what best are they going to do about this building because it's unsafe. what best can be done so that these people can be relocated to the right place. But unfortunately, as you all know, that the city doesn't have a right place in temporary accommodation currently as we speak. And also I'm scared to say that I don't know where are these people going to get a temporary accommodation, as they got those who have survived after this.
Yeah. But it is well known that there are a number of buildings in the Joburg inner city that are housing people, quite frankly, who shouldn't be there. In this particular instance, it's a little too late now. As you've mentioned, 30 plus people have died, but it's also a huge indictment, quite frankly, on the leadership around this area, that something like this can happen under your watch.
Okay, thank you very much for raising that question. But as I told you before, I said that I even raised the issue at the council to say that can the council also to have a way of to say that where can these people to be allocated at a safe place, and so that this place can be revamped so that it can able to serve the purpose, because it was a purpose of saving to assist the abused and children and women.
Sure. What will it take to ensure that buildings like this aren't occupied the way this one was? Because as I mentioned, I'm sure you and I can go around the city now and we'll be able to spot, even within a stone throw from the block we're at now, other buildings that are housing people that shouldn't be there.
Okay. No, that's true. Then the government of the GLU, the government of local unity, then that is led by the ANC, they are going to make sure that they even say they plan to say that all these buildings that are illegal occupied, they are going to take this building. They have started to do an audit to say which are these buildings, because another one that it was a fire station that is here, just in the Kirk Street, I even sent a motion that they say then they must able to come to us, the State Department, to say that what are they going to do by that building, because also it's hijacked.
Yeah.
But
when can we expect that to happen? The process has been ongoing for years now.
No, not for years. Then you must understand that the city, this coming in and going out of the governance, it has a negative impact in terms of the service delivery that is affecting the city. But now, as we can see, then everything is consolidated, is stable at the city of Johannesburg with the government of the GLU that is on board.
What is the reasonable amount of time you reckon other residents should be expected to wait before this issue is finally sorted out? For as long as I've been doing this, I have always known that the inner city has had people who are actually able to just walk into abandoned buildings and find residents there with the full knowledge of authorities. And again, if we're able to circumvent that, at the very least, we won't be losing one-year-old toddlers to fires which could have been prevented.
You also must understand that the process to do that, nobody can just wake up and say, no, here's a building. There must be processes. For example, some they have kids, they have children, school children, that we cannot take them far away from where they are studying, and also they are working around. You must also consider that the lawyers of human rights, they always come on board to say, now, do you have relocate those people illegally? Those people, all the stakeholders must come on board to say that what best can be done for these people. Then it doesn't mean that we are not doing anything, but everything must be done accordingly in a right way. For example, if you just do it, the Syria will then come to you and say, no, we are infringing to the rights of humans.
Right. Mongabeli Mnyameni, that's the time we have for now. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us.
Thanks a lot.
Really do appreciate the handshake.
Okay, let me tell you that the mayor, the whip of council, Zungu Manzini, is coming also here, and also the mayor, councillor Kwamanda, is also coming here. Just for them, they're on their way, so that they can able to give you an updated, full comprehensive report what is going to be happening here.
Thank you very much. Some might say a little too late, but I'm sure we'll catch up with them as soon as they arrive. Okay. Mongabeli Mnyameni is a councillor, one of the councillors here in the city of Johannesburg. An important concession he's made there, by the way, that the instability we've seen in council in many ways has prevented them from ultimately doing their jobs, like ensuring that they're able to sweep through the Joburg inner city and remove people who are occupying illegal buildings like the one behind us that's gone up in flames, before the kind of tragedy that's taken hold here actually takes place. I mean, as that conversation was taking place, we got more information that death toll, which was at 30 a few minutes ago, has now risen to 38. It gives you a picture of A, the scale of the devastation, and B, just how fluid and active the scene itself is. We've also just learned through the councillor that the building itself was meant to be some kind of shelter for women and children. I can confirm independently that that's no longer the case, because among the people we've spoken to are actually a group of 4 men who confirmed to us that they stay in that building and pay some kind of rental for taking occupation there. Here's what they had to tell us earlier.
So abantu bememeza ukuthi kuyashwa saphuma nathi. Nesiphuma na abantu baphuma ngama window bajampela phansi. Nathi saphuma. Uma sesigijima sithathe sikuthathayo kusele.
Yeah, just a quick translation for you there. Essentially, they were telling us of the moments leading up to their escaping the building itself. They witnessed people jumping from the windows. They were able to tell us that a lot of their belongings are still stuck in there, I imagine completely destroyed by now. But luckily, as far as they're concerned, they are fine, as well as their own relatives are okay. Interesting, they told us that they came here from Springs because they work not too far from this particular area, and I imagine that story is replicated for many of the people here, at least those who reside in South Africa, but we've also been able to engage off camera with some residents who are not from this country, and I imagine for them the story of recovery and going back home, wherever home is slightly more complex.
And of course, breaking news coming to us as we continue to break the latest on the story throughout the morning, Ayanda. We now hear from emergency services officials that the death toll has now risen to 38. That's 38 people killed in that fire at a building that effectively gutted that building in Marshalltown this morning. And among the death toll is a toddler as well. Robert Malauti from EMS telling us just a little earlier that that toddler between the ages of 1 and 2. Ayanda, thanks very much indeed for that update. We'll